Hi! This is so weird, I don't know what to say. Welcome, I guess, as always. I'm going to be trying to look at the camera, but honestly, like, all of this is just so distracting. And I know a lot of people have asked questions about why I don't show my face, and I'll get into that. Today's video obviously is a lot different to my usual video. It's going to be a Q&A to celebrate 50,000 subscribers and also just to finally meet you guys personally, I guess, because this whole channel up until this point has been, I hope, able to offer you a lot of personal guidance and clarity and information and support on your journey. So it's going to be weird to share my journey now as well. So I just want to start by saying, when I did post on Instagram about this Q&A video, I was referring to questions about the channel or about me. I didn't necessarily mean that I was going to be answering questions about personal reading sort of issues. And so I do apologize because I know that some people have reached out and they've asked about their own personal circumstances. At this point in time, I am still not able to offer personal readings, and I will explain that a little bit further in this video as well. So I'm going to get straight into it because I'm a little bit nervous, not going to lie. This is so strange. So first question is a doozy. What do you do for a living? How old are you? What's your favorite food? Do you have any partners in life? And I will be putting the questions up here as well. So, okay, what do I do for a living? I actually work in the homelessness sector, a part of community services work, kind of like social work without the social work degree. I'm a recovery worker. So it's just like a recovery-orientated title for like a caseworker. And I work with adults who have experienced chronic homelessness in their lives. How old am I? I have to think now. I'm 25 this year, but my birthday is on the 31st of December. So I'm a Capricorn. I'm still saying that I'm 24 until that day comes because recently I've developed a phobia of growing old. What's your favorite food? Honestly, right now, I love Mexican food, but like you can't get good, authentic Mexican food in Australia. So I'm mostly going to Zambreros or Mad Mex if I can. It's not the best, but it's the better of the two. Do you have any partners in life? Oh, my love situation is super complicated. At the moment, I am a single free spirit, but I do firmly believe that the people who I encountered put me on this path, and that without them I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And part of my spiritual awakening was encountering someone who I believe to this point was some sort of counterpart. Okay, so next question is, sometimes you say, in my culture. Can you tell us a bit about your culture? So I am Indigenous Australian. I identify as a Torres Strait Islander, and I do have some Aboriginal heritage. The Indigenous culture and history is super complicated in Australia. Because of what happened, I don't have access to my Aboriginal history. My grandmother, who was Aboriginal, she was removed from her family and put on a mission, which is kind of like a reserve, I guess, is what they would have in the States. And so we don't know much about her Aboriginal culture. So I do claim culture from my stepdad. He raised me under his language and on his land, and I feel very tied to that part of this beautiful world, but I identify primarily as a Torres Strait Islander, so I didn't bring it. There's a rock that I usually show, and I think it was in my last video as well, and it has a crocodile on it, but our language word for that is kadal. So I won't go into that too much because there's a lot there, but that is my culture. When I'm talking about my culture, I'm talking about my Torres Strait Islander culture. So what are your your big three signs? My big three signs is, so I'm Capricorn Sun, I'm a Taurus Moon, and Gemini Rising. Those are my three big signs, I would say. Obviously, depending on what you're going through and what the planetary alignments are going through, other areas of your zodiac chart are also significant, but those are my 3 big signs. What's your favorite type of music? Any song recommendations from them? I have a really eclectic collection of music, which kind of shows through as well in the readings. When I do have to include songs, they're really random, and I sometimes have to try to find a better song because I'm thinking, how is that going to fit in with the message? But it usually always does. What made you start reading tarot cards, and when did you start reading tarot? Oh, there's 3 questions here. So I'll start with what made you. I was always curious about it. I've always been super curious about like voodoo in general, but in my culture we call it maid, so it's like the word for magic, and the legend was that the females in my family came from a long line of like white maids, so like white magic witches, and they were put in villages to essentially protect people and to offer remedies to everyday things, but as well as against sort of black magic and that concept of black magic too, because you can't have light without the dark and vice versa. So I always grew up sort of hearing those stories, and I was always curious about it. And then when I left home at 17, I just found my first tarot deck in a random hippie store, and it just called to me. That's my Rider-Waite deck as well, which I still have. And I just thought, at that time, it definitely wasn't the right time. I didn't have enough awareness about my own spirituality, and to this day I don't really label my spirituality under a specific religion. I think it's more a connection with my intuition and my faith in source, spirit, God, whatever you choose. Oh, what books and what people can I research to get more educated on everything? I kind of talked about this earlier. I didn't learn tarot in a conventional way, I guess. I don't really know how other people learn tarot though. I know that you can like come to a teacher and someone can teach you, but for me personally, I learned in a way that was through practical experience. I had to grow up and I had to cross paths with very specific people in order to be at the position that I am today, in the position I should say that I am today. I didn't learn tarot conventionally or from one specific teacher or from one book. And the first place that I even learned about tarot was through my Rider-Waite deck in the guidebook, so not conventional at all. So what inspired you to do tarot, and what advice can you give to those just getting into tarot? I wanted to do tarot when I was really young because I thought it would fix all of my problems. It was proven to me very quickly how false that assumption was. So the main reason that I decided to do tarot on this scale on YouTube was because I was doing a reading for a close family friend, and they were at a distance to me. I'd actually never met them before. And they told me that what I actually said in my reading was very accurate and very helpful, and it was able to offer her a lot of clarity and a lot of support. So she actually suggested that I start a YouTube channel, and this was at the beginning of the coronavirus shutdowns in Australia. So I kind of decided, oh, okay, if she's saying it, she's quite an amazing, incredible woman. So I thought, well, if she's saying it, then there must be some truth to it. And I kind of just filmed the first couple of videos without really thinking that they were going to be this impactful. Because I've always trusted my intuition, but I didn't really know how it was going to work for the viewer on a scale or on a platform like YouTube. So I was skeptical, but I just went with my intuition as always. So the main advice that I would give to someone who is just starting tarot is to always trust your intuition primarily. At times, some people may not be ready for the messages you have to convey, but if you focus on honesty and integrity and just following your intuition, then you are guaranteed to be tapping into the right information. So that is my main advice, is to always trust your intuition primarily. And the best way to get good at tarot is to stop reading for yourself and to start reading for others, because often your ego or just your own internal dialogue can get the better of you. It's always good to try to reach out to others and offer tarot readings to them. And my main advice, aside from always trusting your intuition and practicing on other people, is to just don't give up. This is something that I've been doing for so long, but at the same time, I did have long periods in between where I wasn't practicing and I wasn't really wanting to have a foot in that door, if that makes sense. I did kind of close that door for a period of time because I wasn't ready. So while it's okay to take a break, don't give up and know that it will take time. And as your life experience expands, your ability to read tarot will also expand. Okay, next question. Does it make sense that I resonate more with one pile? Oh, with more than one pile, sometimes all. It does make sense. Even as the reader, there's often little key messages in every group as I'm reading that will resonate. I think that as a collective, we are generally experiencing the same sort of collective energy, collective experience. What varies is our individual freedom of will and how we choose to respond to that situation. So I do believe that each and every single pile is going to have messages that will resonate for you. I also believe that, you know, if you want to watch the whole video, that's fine, but it kind of comes back to that mantra that I always say in my videos: just take what resonates and don't let the rest take from you. The main thing is that, you know, the video was intended to give you information and to help you on your journey. So just take whatever information is actually helpful for you and don't let the rest take from you. But as a collective, we have this shared energy, which is why more than one pile may resonate. What is your process like when you channel messages from spirit? Does your guidance come as feelings, a voice, a thought that isn't yours? Yeah, so it's a weird, I'm definitely empathic. I don't really like to label it. I've looked into all the clairs. Really, it is a feeling. It's a really strong feeling, and it's so strong that sometimes it feels like a voice, or sometimes I will actually see words, or sometimes it'll feel like I hear words, but it's really more of a feeling, an overwhelming feeling. And when I'm reading and when I'm allowing that channel to be open, if I don't convey the messages that are coming through, because obviously you guys would have heard me sometimes talking about some of the really tricky messages that come through. My main goal has always been to provide honesty and clarity. I will never lie. And the more I try to soften the message at times, the more stronger the feeling is, because actually that's not the message. The message is this. So it is a really, really, really strong sort of feeling, to the point where at times I can see words or see objects or see situations, and I'll sometimes hear things, but it's not really like a voice. It's more of a really strong feeling. And it's been a long process of knowing how to control that in a safe way as well, and making sure that there are safe energies around me and not harmful negative energies. Have you ever felt like the messages Spirit has given you is not right? No, unfortunately. Usually it's me wishing they were wrong. Literally 100% of the time the message is right. It's just that my ego wasn't ready to hear it. How do you feel being able to provide clarity to everyone through Spirit? It is such a humbling experience. Like, it's never really been about me though, honestly. I feel so humble and so grateful, and it's such an immense privilege. But it was never meant to be about me. It was meant to be about a community and creating a community of people who are able to receive support and guidance. Like, it was always intended as being something bigger than me, which is why I didn't choose to show my face and why I didn't want to use my name either. It was never supposed to be about me. So I'm incredibly grateful, and it is an immense privilege to be able to do this. But at the same time, this may be the first and last time I choose to show my face, because it was never meant to be about me. So this is an interesting question. I remember seeing it pop up. Tropical, or I say sidereal. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but I say sidereal. Personally, this is talking about zodiac signs, and generally two different ways of reading astrology, I guess, in general, astrological charts. I don't know a heck of a lot about it. I would love to learn more about astrology and reading astrology charts. Personally, what I follow is tropical. I agree that it may not be the most accurate, because it kind of just starts with Aries and then goes 30 degrees this way, 30 degrees that way, which isn't how the universe works. It isn't always easily explainable. I believe sidereal might be more accurate. I do agree that it would be a more accurate way, just because mathematically you're factoring in the equinoxes as well, and all those little I don't want to say like glitches, but like those little inconsistencies that happen naturally. When did you first start connecting with spirit? Any advice for someone wanting to connect more with their spirit guides? I was considering doing a video about this, actually. A couple of people have reached out about connecting more with their spirit guides and how to open that channel safely. Spirituality has always been a big factor in my culture. I was always raised with it. Culturally, Torres Strait Islander people are very spiritual. There are a lot of myths and legends in our culture, and we grew up always just not needing to have to like put everything in boxes, if that makes sense. Like some things just don't fit square into these boxes. And then I realized that some things that I was experiencing other people didn't experience. So from a very young age, I had to establish a strong connection with positive light beings. And for me, my spirit guides stem from a long line of feminine energies who worked in light, and my other guides are just beautiful, positive entities that kind of came into my life when I needed them the most. So it helps if you have more awareness as to the energies around you, if you can, whether that means connecting with a medium or someone who is able to read energies, or if you just try to make that contact yourself. I don't really know how to break it down, because it's such an individual thing as well, and I don't want to say that like one size fits all. For me, I had to go through some pretty scary situations in order to feel more connected to my positive guides as well, and in order to know who to reach out to for protection and support. And oddly enough, it was a mixture of having like an eclectic spiritual background with my Torres Strait Islander heritage, as well as having like a Christianity background. And my version of spirit it exceeds the labels of Christianity. You know, it kind of like, personally, I don't think of it as the same God that they write about in the Bible. I think that there are a lot of similarities, but I also think that this is a being that exceeds conditional love and exceeds our 3D expectations. This is getting really deep, but that is my like personal opinion on spirit, I guess. So my biggest advice about wanting to connect with your guides is to make sure that you have a safe way of doing so, knowing how to protect yourself. I did bring it. This isn't a part of my culture, but it has helped me in terms of my faith, and I know that people are kind of torn about this. I've just burnt through the first bind, so it looks a little bit but sage is one of the things that really helps me, just some way to cleanse your space, cleanse your energy. And burning something is only going to be effective if you believe it is. You have to believe that it is going to be effective. And so I have like a mantra that I say while I do it, just to make sure that I'm doing it in a way that is safe and that is protectful. So I guess that is my main advice, is that if you are wanting to connect with your guides, just make sure that they are actually positive beings because there are a lot of entities out there that will attach to you just for the simple sake of feeding off your energy. So it is important that you try to stay safe. If it isn't sage, it might be crystals for you. It might just be constantly affirming to your area, whether that be your home as a whole or your bedroom, wherever you choose to try to open that channel. Just saying, you know, I only ask for positive beings of love and light to surround me. I'm asking my ancestors, my spirit guides, and spirit in general, please clear all negative entities, negative energies, and negative spirits from this area. That might be something that could be useful for you. That is something that I kind of say roughly, but it is about believing in what you're saying. You could literally say anything. Your English doesn't have to be that good, but you have to believe. You have to put the intention out there and the energy out there. How do you pick the bonus songs for your readings? So my phone is what I'm filming on right now, so I can't really show you, but I have my Apple Music library, and honestly, for the last 12 months, YouTube has been recommending random songs to me, completely random songs. So over the last 12 months, I've been just compiling them into different playlists, and I have a playlist specifically titled Ooey Gooey Sickly Sweetness, which is like all the compilation of what I interpret to be like love songs, and those are the ones that I primarily use for these readings. I'll just open that playlist and I'll put the whole playlist on shuffle, basically, and then I'll ask Spirit which of these songs contains messages specific to the energy in group 1, and then I'll press shuffle, and whatever song comes up is what I choose to attach to that group. My 3-year-old daughter is very spiritually connected and sees spirits as well. How can I support her so she embraces it and doesn't get... This message I actually saw yesterday, and it gave me intense flashbacks to my own childhood, but also I have a very young sister who's in a similar boat. Best thing that you can do is to assure her that she is safe, to remind her that as scary as some of the spirits can be, they can't actually harm her. And the best thing that she can do for herself is to establish boundaries from the beginning. So just encouraging her to actually telling things that scare her, whether it's an energy or she actually sees a physical entity, telling them, encouraging her to tell them to leave her alone, encouraging her to put those boundaries up early, because some of those entities she will see, you may not see, and it's a matter of her trying to assert her energy and assert that boundary from the beginning. That is such a young age though, so the best thing you can do when she's that young is to really assure her that she is safe, she is loved, and she is protected. At that age, she would have some very involved spirit guides whose main I guess role in her life is to protect her and to help her stay safe until she can figure things out for herself. So I guess just really building her confidence and reminding her that she is safe, and that as scary as these spirits can be, they can't actually harm her, because once her mental state, once her energy is solid, it's going to help her stay protected as well. How do you make sure you connect with good spirits and not bad ones? That is such a good question. So that kind of ties into what I was saying about the sage. Again, you know, I could burn a piece of paper and it wouldn't mean anything unless the intent is there. So for me personally, my energy is very susceptible to other people's energies and other energies in general. I have to cleanse myself very often. If I'm not doing it with sage, I also use salt scrubs. I will feel like a dip in my energy. I will start to feel just generally pessimistic and less positive. Sometimes certain things that usually don't impact me very much seem to just really niggle away at me and linger. And when that happens, I know that I've kind of either come into contact with or something negative has attached itself to me. But I have a very close connection with my guides, and I will always call on them for support, and I always try to stay linked in with my guides so I can really feel their energy very strongly, and I know almost immediately when a foreign energy enters my space, and I will immediately just talk to it and say, you need to leave. This is a space of love and light. I will not accept negative entities in my personal energy. So it's taken a lot of years of not wanting that at all. Like, I kind of stayed closed off to it for so long that I was almost forced to start not just opening me up like an exposed nerve, but I had to throw myself back into it, and in order to know how to set those boundaries and how to be more assertive over those energies as well. Because if you are put in a position like this, as scary as it is, often it's the bad experiences that stand out more than the positive ones. But the truth is, you're always surrounded by positive energy, and the goal of people like us who are more empathetic and who have more are more susceptible to energies, our goal is to help others, essentially. And I hope I'm not just rambling, but it's taken a lot of years, basically, of having to establish firm boundaries against other people's energies. And it's not always like spirits, it can be physical people who just have very negative energies, vampire-like energies that just take and take and take, and they don't give at all. It's just been years, personally, of knowing my spirit guides and the general collective energy around me, that when a negative energy comes in, I feel it almost instantly. I can tell that, you know, that's not meant to be there, and it mightn't be a deceased person's energy. It might be the bus driver. He was having a bad day, and all of a sudden his energy's attached to me, and I've got to try to cleanse it off. But I hope that makes sense. I feel like I waffled on with that one. Have you ever considered making a tarot course? Interesting. I really want to. I want to start releasing videos on how I read tarot, but I will be the first person to sort of put my hand up and go, I'm no expert. And honestly, at the position that I'm in, although I am able to offer a lot of clarity and a lot of guidance and a lot of support, I firmly believe that I will be learning tarot for the rest of my life, because it is my personal experience that helps guide others through difficult situations. And I think that the more that I'm able to experience, the more specific the messages can be. I know that when I was first starting years ago, the messages that were coming through were so foreign to me, and they were so generalized, and I always kept like a diary, a log of these. And reading them back now, almost 8 years later, it all resonates in a way that I never could have possibly comprehended when I was 17 years old. So I do want to share my knowledge, and I would love to empower other people to take on tarot as a medium to understanding their intuition and their journey better. But I am definitely no expert, and I want to do it in a way that is going to help others without limiting them, if that makes sense. So it's just about me trying to figure out how to do that, basically. But I do intend on doing that. A beautiful message, so I will put it up here just to say thank you. When did you begin reading tarot? When did you learn to surrender to your intuition? And how long was it before you were comfortable reading others? I didn't fully surrender to my intuition until I was nearly forced to. It was a very confronting dark night of the soul experience. I don't know if you guys know that concept, but I had to almost... my ego had to die multiple times before I surrendered to my intuition and to the path that I was being called towards. And it wasn't like my spirit guides were forcing me to do that. If anything, they were the only thing that I had to hold on to, because it is such an alienating experience, and I was going through so much that I couldn't talk about with my loved ones because it was such a foreign concept to them, and I was just this crazy person who was seeing repeat numbers and hearing songs that were speaking directly to me. So it was a really alienating experience, but it almost forced me to become more connected with my guides. And honestly, that only happened about 2 years ago, and it has continued happening until then, in a less harsh way, in a more of evolution, kind of less scary, but that strong connection is still there. It was like a divine intervention moment, a massive tower moment for sure. So I've been reading others ever since I started tarot, but it wasn't as effective as I am now. I started with my best friends, who will always gas me up and tell me that I'm the greatest, but I really wasn't. I really wasn't in the beginning. So I never was truly comfortable until I started my YouTube channel, if I'm honest. I have done readings for others in the last 8 years, but I didn't have that conviction, that strong connection to my intuition until that dark night of the soul experience, and I had to process that. So it took a long time of just creating a firm foundation of knowledge and understanding, because your intuition isn't something you can really write a book about. It is very individual and it is very non-logical. It doesn't fit the mold of our society. So I had to kind of be comfortable with that and accept all these unknown variables and accept it for what it is, which is a knowing. It's not something logical. So I wasn't truly comfortable until I really started my YouTube channel, and that's the main reason I started it, was because I did that reading for a family friend and I was in a position where I felt like it was something that I needed to do. Do you have a favorite deck, and how does your interpretation of the cards differ depending on which deck you use? I think that the artwork is very integral to each deck, which is why you can never have too many tarot decks in my opinion. My favorite deck will always be my first deck, my trusty Rider-Waite Tarot, which isn't too far away. It's usually right there, but I do feel very attached to my Hermetic Tarot deck as well. I just feel like it has a completely different energy. It hits different. It's a beautiful deck, and I definitely think that the artwork has a major impact on the messages, I guess. You shouldn't just read it as a textbook standard, you know, one size fits all. That interpretation and that meaning will vary depending on what you are being shown, and that artwork has an integral role in delivering that message. Are you able to do a reading for yourself without your ego taking control of the reading, or do you refer to others for your own reading? I do struggle to read for myself 100%. I think it is a combination of my ego, but also just my 3D logical mind. I have a very analytical, practical mind, and my intuition doesn't fit in that mold. It doesn't fit into a practical, logical mold. So I can't usually read for myself. The best way that I do readings for myself is by drawing the cards and just writing random words that come to my mind and not really reading too much into the meanings, which means I can never really give an in-depth reading for myself. But I'm also constantly seeing messages to the point where I don't need tarot to receive my spiritual downloads. I get downloads in other ways, like through songs and just through general sequences of events from spirit as well. What does it mean if I get the same message in every reading? No matter what the topic is, it always gives hints to the same thing. So it's kind of like, at that point, there's some sort of karmic cycle happening in your life. Consider it like that infinity symbol, you know? And until that lesson is learned, or until that message is absorbed and understood, that cycle is going to continue. So that generally means that there is something very specific that Spirit is trying to convey to you that perhaps your logical mind won't accept. They're trying to break the barrier of what you think is reality, if that makes sense. And that same message could just be trying to confirm something, or it means that you really just need, you have all the information already, and you really need to just trust yourself at that point. Again, tarot isn't really something that tells us anything new. It's usually a medium that can tap into our subconscious, the things that we're refusing to see. And so if you're seeing the same messages or hearing the same messages again and again and again, it's because there's nothing new that can really be shared with you. At this point, you've got to trust that you have all the knowledge that you need. There may still be things that you don't know, but you have all the knowledge, all the information that you need for right now. Which town do you suggest in Australia and why? Ooh, interesting. Personally, I live on the East Coast. A lot of Australians do. Australia, I think we have just under 24 million people, and I think it's something ridiculous, like 18 million of us live on the East Coast, because the beaches, actually I don't even know why. I think the West Coast has better beaches. I don't know why we all live over here, but I am biased because I live on this side. I'm from Cairns in Queensland, but personally I love the city of Gold Coast. I think Gold Coast, surfer's paradise, is beautiful, and you have a lot of bushlands there that I personally haven't seen yet. The Gold Coast is like a little niche sort of town. It's not too far from the other bigger cities, like you've got Sydney down south and then Brisbane up north. It's a surfing town as well. A lot of tourists come in and out, so you meet some incredible people there. I think it's like not too big and not too small. There's some really good shopping malls, and again, it's just a beautiful collection of random people. You have sort of your bougier upper class people, and then you have your laid back surfer people. So it's an interesting mix, and it kind of all comes together in this town that's overrun by casinos. So it's really bizarre. I love the Gold Coast. Where did you get the idea or inspiration to put songs for each group? That was actually something that came from another reader. Oh, I wish I could remember her name. She does them as well. Julissa's messages, she sort of has this deck of tarot cards with different songs on them. And when I started watching her channel, I thought that was a beautiful way of incorporating different mediums, because you don't need just, like, tarot is one form of getting spiritual downloads, but it shouldn't be the sole source. And in many instances, messages are coming to us via music or through songs. So I just decided to start doing that as well. And I noticed that if I would put the title and the song in the description box, certain people would pick that group specifically. So I started putting the YouTube links instead, just to sort of keep it more unbiased and more random, so that you're really just trusting your intuition. So how do you prepare yourself for a reading? What would you consider doing a podcast about spiritual concepts and tools you use in your life? And what has been your greatest lessons learned through tarot? Wow, big questions. This is going to be a long video. Have to have coffee just to get my energy levels sorted. I am a massive caffeine fiend. Most Capricorns seem to become addicted to something. I'm just grateful it's coffee. It could be a lot worse. We'll film in the mornings. I'll have my coffee. Sometimes I don't even have breakfast. I usually surround myself with my favorite little trinkets, whether it's my crystals, which are never too far away, or it could just be like something that I need. Depending on what my energy is like, I might do a cleansing with sage first, or I might just burn some of my special wood. And then I just make sure that it's a day that I feel able to, because I won't channel if my energy feels low or if it feels disrupted, which does happen. And I did have to take a break for a little while because that was happening. I haven't thought about doing a podcast, but I have started a blog on my website. I'm getting tongue twisted now. I've started a blog on my website, and there's only one blog post up at the moment. It's called Understanding Karma. But I do intend on sharing more about my spiritual journey and just the spiritual lessons that I've encountered through that website as well. Because I think for the moment, I want to be able to keep putting out pick a card readings on this channel. I don't want to put too many other videos up for now, but that might change. It's all in Spirit's hands, so that might change. What have been your greatest lessons? I guess with tarot, it's about appreciating and understanding the many variable meanings, the many varied facets. There's so many intricate ways of reading and interpreting a card, and I have always, well, in the beginning, I guess I learned it theoretically. I learned tarot by the book. I started with my Rider-Waite guidebook, which doesn't make sense at all, if I'm honest. Like, it doesn't at all go into the meanings of the cards and the Fool's Journey with the major arcana. So it's been a process of personally realizing that yes, theoretical knowledge is good, but practical knowledge is what is more valuable, because it doesn't fit into molds, it doesn't fit into guidebooks, and you have to understand that tarot is trying to describe life, and life, it doesn't fit into textbooks. You don't get a textbook on how to be the best person ever. You just kind of have to figure it out, and you have the basic concept of right and wrong, but there's so many gray variables. How did you put your personal deck together? The one with the messages. That is my favorite. Oh, can I say that? The Rider-Waite deck is technically my favorite, but my personal deck has such a strong energy in it, and I love it so much. It's just so personal, and I was hesitant to share it with the channel at first, but I trust that deck so much, and every single message comes out for a specific reason. So literally, I was doing food shopping to pick up bread, and I decided to go down the stationery aisle, and I've always wanted to make my own deck. But I said to myself, if there's palm cards here, then it's meant to be. If there isn't, then it's not meant to be. And at first, I couldn't find them, so I thought, oh well, it's not meant to be. But as I was checking out, they had a second stationery section right next to the checkouts, and there they were. So I just picked them up and went home and did the whole deck in 30 minutes, 100 cards. It wasn't even, I didn't really think about it. I just had this, almost like this well of words that needed to be expressed. And as soon as I'd written them all down, they just kind of flew out, and I was like, wow, what a load off. Oh wow, Alina Ma, I'm so grateful you received your tote. I'm so grateful. What kind of spread do you do? So interestingly enough, I don't really, I don't have a set spread. It's not something that I could really draw up, but there is a general understanding that I have when the cards come out. I'm kind of guided during the moment to pull a certain amount of cards, and sometimes it isn't the same for each group. I might only pull 6 cards for group 1, but then for group 3 all of a sudden there's 12 cards on the table, and I almost feel guilty because I'm like, oh, group 1 only got 6 cards. But that's the nature of tarot, I think, and my style of tarot anyway. It doesn't fit a mold. It's based off the messages that are coming through at that particular time for that particular group or that person. Whew. But in my last video that I filmed, generally what seems to happen, I always believe that the first card you pull is the most important card. That is the card that has the grounding, sort of integral, overarching energy. The bottom deck energy is vital, but that first card kind of paints the picture for the reading. So from there, we kind of go from a recent past energy, like this, not necessarily your present, it might be something that has happened in the recent past, and then we come into the near future. Unless and I think this was in a question, yes, the next question, you always do most of your readings in the present, not in the future. And that's generally because at the moment, in this particular time, I feel like even the present is so uncertain. We have so much uncertainty in the world right now. I have done some future readings that are more projected towards like a year or 3 months, but for the moment, I think that even the present can be so uncertain. So that is where I'm choosing to focus my readings on. But my spreads will usually, the first row of cards will be about the near past, so something that might have happened in the last week or the last month. Some people even, the whole reading for them is about their past, and they'll be asking, why is this a next in love reading when you just told me all about my ex? So I don't think with the general readings, I don't think it's really specific. It just depends on you as the individual and what messages finds you. I rather just tune into the energy and understand the messages that are trying to be delivered as well. Is it possible in tarot to get into health-related questions? 100% yes, absolutely. If that is something that you are wanting to focus the reading on, then yes. I don't usually focus my readings on that. unless it is blatantly obvious, unless that is the only or the main message that is coming through. I don't usually focus my readings specifically on health. This is a big one, so I'm going to put it up here. You can read it with me. I feel you are so highly tuned in the collective consciousness of your viewers. Is this why the readings mostly turn out to be love life / relationship related? Because there are, at this point of time, so many other highly intense topics playing out in the background, like ancestral ties, past lives. Would love a reading about those ancestral issues we are all still carrying around. So the main reason that I started doing love life and relationship related readings was because that was the plan from spirit, if that makes sense. I personally was like a raw nerve of spiritual awakening, and I wanted to share more information about dark nights of the souls, twin flames, soulmates, karmic connections, karmic cycles, star seeds, all of that. But spirit kind of indicated that the best way for the channel to reach many people was to start with love, because love is the universal positive energy that ties us all together. And even now, like, we do a lot of love readings, and every now and then I'll just do what do you need to hear, and I kind of tune into the energy of each group. I feel that some groups are more so wanting the general sort of love related stuff, whereas there are other groups that seem to be deeper into the spiritual knowledge, and I might drop a little bit about this or that depending on what I'm feeling in that energy. But honestly, that is the main reason why I chose to focus on love, was because I started my channel at a time when coronavirus had shut down a large majority of the world, and a lot of people were separated from the ones they love, and there was a lot of uncertainty in general, and it was almost like a good distraction, not just for myself but for the collective, to be able to focus on that rather than some of the craziest stuff that was going on. So it was a way of building the community and reaching a broader community, as well as offering a honest but healthy distraction from some of the craziest stuff that was going on. And I never wanted to entirely focus on it, but I think that love is something that we can all relate to, whether it's romantic love or whether it's a family love or just an unconditional general feeling of love and light. I think it's something that ties us all together as well. What's your most beautiful memory from your spiritual journey? It's just a general feeling of gratitude, I guess. It hasn't always been easy. It hasn't always been love and light. There's been some really deep, dark places and moments as well. And I think that the most beautiful memory is just constantly feeling protected and being in a space now where I'm able to feel gratitude and authenticity within myself, like unlocking this part of myself where I'm comfortable sharing and comfortable with connecting and being in a position where I feel incredibly, like, I know that there's still so much more to come, and I know that I could learn so much more, but I just feel incredibly content. Doesn't really summarize it. Honestly, it's just the right now. Like, I'm incredibly grateful for my present and for all the darkness that had to happen in order to reach this point as well. What do you do other than tarot? When did you start your tarot journey, and when was the last time you did personal readings? So I kind of talked about what I do for work. When was the last time you did personal readings? So the last time I did personal readings was May. We're in August now, so it's been a hot minute. That's mostly because the channel has grown substantially, but also I've been trying to put most of my physical energy into my community and helping my community with what's been going on with coronavirus, because this has kind of become a second job. So my other work, not YouTube, has had a lot of restructuring because of coronavirus. We've lost some funding, unfortunately. So the main reason that I had to stop personal readings was because physically I wasn't able to. And even at this point in time, I'm physically still investing a lot of my physical energy into my community at this moment in time, and as well as my family, as well as just my own mental health and trying to keep a healthy self-care regime. So I literally just don't have capacity right now, but that was the last time that I did personal readings, was in May. What level of personal development and inner union? usually leads to twin flame union. It is so confusing. I agree with you. And honestly, an integral part of my spiritual journey was encountering the person who I believe to be my twin flame. But an integral part of my journey as an individual, regardless of who I have strong soul connections to, has been realizing my own individual healing and my own individual abilities. So the moment I started focusing solely on myself, regardless of the people connected to me, was the moment that I felt in a union, if that makes sense. I started appreciating myself and understanding my journey and where life was leading me, and I stopped focusing on them and what they had done and what they were doing to me. And I can't really speak about the union part because we're still in separation, but I'm not mad at it. Like, I'm at such a beautiful point in my life where I'm super grateful for everything I have and everyone I have, more importantly, the beautiful people I surround myself with, and this incredible community that we have created. So regardless of whether they are at the finishing line or not, I am incredibly grateful to be in this position where I feel in a union. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's just on my personal experience. How do you know when there's a connection with a new person or an old one? So the way I read the cards is I do pick up on like a collective energy, but at times, and you may have noticed this in some of the readings too, at times there are specific energies that come through from specific people as well. The cards will tell me if it's an old energy. There's certain cards that represent people from your past or nostalgic energies that mix through. The Star card is one of those cards that talks about the past mixing with the present. The Six of Cups has the feeling of nostalgia attached to it as well. The Eight of Cups reversed can talk about somebody coming back. So can the Six of Swords reversed. Talks about someone, instead of moving away, they're moving back. But in general, it is a feeling. And I do ask, or I try to ask Spirit. If I'm unsure, I will always ask Spirit for clarity. And I will try to say, is this a new person or an old energy? If I am really unsure, then I try to just keep it general, and I will treat it as a new person and allow you as the viewer to make that distinction yourself. Because we are such a big community, I try to keep it general if I'm unsure. How do you manage to get through the difficult days or times? And can I do a reading for myself? So I did talk about this before in terms of, can I do readings for myself? It's a tricky one. Yes, I can, but my logical mind gets in the way, and the part of that is my ego too, I will admit. But the first part of your question, how do you get through the difficult days or times? And trust me, I know that 90% of the times I present as being very bubbly, but as an empath, it isn't always that easy. So the best advice I could give is to express moments of gratitude, finding little things. And sometimes the only thing I can say is, I am so grateful to be alive today. I'm so grateful to wake up in my own bed, or I am so grateful for the sunshine. I'm so grateful for the clouds, because I would be walking in heat if it wasn't for them. So it's just like little things, and it's about being honest and authentic too. If you're actually really struggling, then you need to kind of say that gratitude with conviction and say something that you honestly mean. Don't try to set the bar too high. If you don't have the energy to be grateful for something, then don't lie to yourself, be honest with yourself. But gratitude is a very quick way to switch your energy up and to try to be more positive. It isn't always easy, but starting small with gratitude is a good stepping stone. I did answer the first part of your question, so I'm only going to answer the ending. What is my biggest pet peeve when reading tarot? I think the biggest pet peeve I personally have is when I go to film a video and I may not have done a personal reading in a long time, or I may not have been paying attention to the messages that I was being given. And when I'm doing a general reading for you guys, as soon as I press that record button, all the messages that come through are meant for me. And I have to literally just time out, have a little intervention with my guides, and try to remove myself from the situation again. That's something that I never used to be aware of. It's only with experience that I realized that that even happens. You have to know when to distinguish your own energy from the collective or the general energy of the reading as well. I guess that's my biggest pet peeve, but it's also the one thing that I'm always conscious of, because it's never been about me. Like, this channel is about helping others. So when I feel my own energy projecting into readings, I have to do my own measures of keeping that in check. I take the messages that are intended for me, and then I will usually refilm that group. And often the general overarching energy is there, but it ends up being very different in the end. All right, so that is where I'm going to call it. Okay, so that is where I'm going to call it. I think I've covered most of the questions. I know that, again, I'm sorry, a lot of people have reached out to me either via email or via the website or even in direct message about your personal situations. I wasn't going to get into that in this video. It was meant to be a Q&A about the channel. This might be the last video that I do like this, because again, it was never really intended to be about me. It was always about us as a community and ensuring that we're getting as much information as possible to move forward in our own individual lives. So thank you so much to everyone who contributed the questions. I think this is going to be a very long video, so thank you if you made it this far. I'm very grateful for you. Stay safe wherever you are, look after yourself, and I will connect with you in another video. Bye!